All right. I think we are live.
Hey, hey.
Hey, everybody. We'll wait and see if people confirm that we're live on here.
I'm seeing some hellos in the chat.
Yay, fantastic. Hey there, everybody. I'm glad you took a break. Everybody's probably like kind of tapering down. Yay, fantastic. There we go. We'll pause it and then I will see if I can see the chat. So the chat will still come in live?
Yes.
Sweet.
Yeah, I do this every week. We're talking about being able to see the chat while you're typing and everything. So.
Yeah. Like I said, because everybody knows how great I am at paying attention to that anyways, but, so we'll put that on there. But hey, everybody, welcome. Thanks for popping on. I am super crazy amped for tonight. And if you guys don't know what it's all about, I actually had brought it up and said that I wanted to basically interview Miss Amy here because she is just freaking crushing it. And the coolest part is, this is what I love more than anything, is seeing people that have just, kept the consistent action. We've talked about this over and over again. One of the things that I brought up a while back was like Master the Mundane, and she's like, yeah, I love that, Master the Mundane. And so, I mean, she's just literally, I feel like you're the poster child for merch. Like, I think like
that's funny.
It's awesome. And I had not asked you, and you can totally say no. I was going to ask you before we got on air, so don't say no if you want to. But can we talk some numbers too once we're through this? Or
yeah, I am super proud of my numbers.
Well, you should be.
We can talk about this year's numbers, last year's numbers. We can talk about it.
That's kind of what I'm leading towards, because I do know that, I mean, you've been growing consistently, but it's not like you've had, bombshell, incredible numbers like your entire journey. Like, yeah. And you know what? You have, even with that, a lot of people use that for, motivation, and they get energy from it. And you've just been like, you know what? I'm just going to keep, plugging along. Oh, and real quick, obviously I have these fun glasses that we can't tell. It says, I love Amazon merch. And I did mention, if you guys are not loving Amazon merch right now, that means that you sat on your ass the past few months. And I'm not saying that you might not have been busy. Maybe you did uploads, maybe you did whatever, but you have not been in the mix, because you should be, no matter what you've been doing, you should be really, really happy with what's going on right now. If you can be truthful to yourself, that you have put in the time and energy. And I've seen it time after time after time. I've seen it example after example. And this is only, I mean, last year was, for me, was Q4, but I was only in for a few months. And so, whatever, feeling it out. This year, and then seeing everybody, I mean, it's amazing. So, awesome for you. I think you're literally my favorite person to watch right now, with what's going on. So, high five.
High five. Thank you.
High five. And so let's start from the beginning. When did you start merch?
June 2017. So I've been doing this for about a year and a half.
Pretty much. Honestly, that's pretty close. Pretty close to when I started.
Yeah.
And so that is amazing. So let's talk about, in the beginning. Okay, well, why did you get started? What were you doing before? Why did you even get started with merch?
I heard about it somewhere. I was, my husband was at the time, he just got out of the medical field. He was a medic for many, many years, and it just wasn't cutting it anymore. And I had the kids. We had 2 kids very close together. They're like 14 months apart. And yeah. And I mean, we're a family of 4, and it got, it was very tight. We ended up, going through some difficulties financially and things like that. And it's like, I always wanted to be able to help, but we decided early on that we were going to homeschool.
Taking care of 2 humans. Exactly. Alive. Yeah, So
So we sit there and, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at different things. I got into Herbalife for a minute and other MLMs because that's what that's what you're told to do, and it's like, oh, I can't pressure people to buy stuff. Like, it's just not me. I just don't have that in me. Looking around, I learned about FBA. So we kind of dabbled in that for a little bit. And it was through those channels that I heard about Merch by Amazon. So I signed up for an account, totally forgot about it. Another friend of mine in a different group, she mentioned how they had gotten approved. And I was like, oh, I signed up for one. So I went, I looked, I saw, hey, welcome. And I was just like, oh, cool. And I got right to work. So.
Awesome. Okay. So you have zero design background.
Yeah. No.
How did you start in the very beginning? You're like, okay, I'm going to create shirts. What did you use in the beginning to do that?
Overapp.
Okay.
Like, for the first year of my merch career was all on my phone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. And so what did you do in the beginning to get ramped up, to get tiered up? Like, were you just kind of like winging it, not knowing what was going to go on?
When I first started, I was just going after niches that I was passionate about, and I knew the market pretty well. I knew what people liked, so I just kind of went with that. And I've always had a pretty good eye for design. I've always been somewhat creative. So that part kind of came naturally. And just doing things like that. Of course, I was watching RJ Martinez. It was just him at the time, and was trying to follow some of his steps. I totally got on Merch Informer in the beginning. I used that to help with research, and I just kept plugging away. And I've always had a good mindset about it. Always just striving to get better with everything that I was putting out there.
Awesome. All right. So, what was your first? So did a win or did a defeat come first? Like, did you hit something to where you're like, oh my gosh, yes, and you got amped up, or were you like, oh, I'm not sure about this?
Yeah. Luckily at the time it was October. It was coming up on October. There was something big that was happening in one of these niches, a certain event that only happens like once every 500 years. So it was a big deal. And so I was able to capitalize on that. And then with the protests back when the football players were taking a kneel and people were all, up in arms about that, I was one of the first people to start putting up shirts there. And that really was what I think.
Ken Real.
Say what?
I said you and Ken Real.
Oh, Ken did too? Okay.
If I remember correctly, somebody was talking about how as he was on it and just stayed up. And I don't quote me on this. I think it was just in a regular conversation or through a live or a video or something that he had ended up he's like, oh, I know it'll still be hot, and he stayed up all night and just busted them out because of course he could fill a bunch of slots because he was super tier. And so yeah, I
was not super tier. I think I only was able to put up 4 because I only had 10 available slots for the day. So I was just oh, but I did. And what was great was literally before they even went live, they were still in processing, and all of a sudden there's sale, and I was just okay, ooh, this is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, that's good. So that right away, you're okay, kind of leaning towards trends on that. And so have you been continually able to kind of pick some trends?
No, in fact, I'm actually terrible at it. I'm terrible at trends. So I try every once in a while. I just got really lucky with that one. I was just in the right place at the right time. Somebody had requested something in a group, and I was just genius. And just yeah.
Well, it's fine. I'm exactly the same way, and I will come up there'll be a trend, and I'm for sure I'm gonna hit it. I'm early. It for real is a trend. I an amazing design, seriously amazing, and goose egg, and I'm okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not fantastic at that either. Okay, so I do have to say that kind of getting warmed up and starting a few months prior to that October, November, December, I think that's just a really good time. So if anybody, obviously if you've been in right now, I mean, here is, and I don't know if you had a similar experience, but with me, it was a really steady compounding to the point to where I, as I was tearing up and throwing up more designs, I was definitely making more, and the trajectory was like this until January. It was like literally a cliff.
And that's pretty much what mine looked like too. Very slow to start. September is when it really started to do well. October, of course. Then December was phenomenal for me last year.
Good.
And then January tanked.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you know what? And I think it was very interesting. I feel like from January on, and again, for us, it was a little bit different. I think that, January tanked. We actually, again, shared this before, but we were suspended from mid-December, even though we were able to keep selling. We were suspended from mid-December all the way until late January. So we weren't able to put up new stuff. We didn't have old stuff that was like, at that point when we were so new, we were literally just putting up stuff for a few months ahead. So we had, nothing that was hitting for anything that was ready for like Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day or whatever. So, we really weren't prepped for that. And we didn't know if we were going to be back on either. So it was kind of like that transition. We weren't putting stuff up when the freeze ended. If you guys are not familiar with the freeze, both years, December 5th, there was a freeze. They stopped everything. You could not edit. The only thing you could do was delete your shirts. You could not edit. You could not upload. And they were, everybody gives the term throttle. For whatever reason, lots of shirts were not being shown. And I don't know about you. I'm assuming I know, but that's not been our experience at all this year. Everything seems to be clipping along pretty well.
Yeah, I haven't noticed any throttling. I was a little bit worried about the whole pop socket thing, but that got resolved.
You know what? I've not listened because we've been doing like super focused with trying to get some other stuff done. I have not been able to catch a lot of the chats about that. Okay, so has anybody said what happened with that, with the pop sockets? Do we know, or is there a theory?
The theory is like something happened. It glitched out, and Amazon was quick to get them back up.
Well, what's funny is there was that.
But it was December 5th. Like
it was December 5th, and it was right after somebody had, right after like we were spreading around the article about some issues with pop sockets. So it was just kind of like coincidence, which is kind of funny. But we were like, great, there goes pop sockets are gone.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that article too, but like I tried to look elsewhere to see if there was anything else about it, and I haven't found anything. So it's kind of like, yeah, it might be true, it might not be,
Okay, well, I am incredibly impressed. For not only, my dog just came down here by me, not only that we've not had a freeze, everything seems to be going beautifully. Okay, you had a glitch with pop sockets and you resolved it the same day.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Wow.
And it gives a lot of encouragement going into the future. Yeah.
Fist bump to them, man. They are obviously doing some amazing things. So, all right. So we got through till January. So talk a little bit about your year from January, probably up until, I would say probably even October-ish, because you didn't have if you had just started in like June, so obviously you didn't have season shirts that were hitting last year, and so all the shirts that you were putting up were basically first timers, not having like reviews or anything like that. Talk about that up until I think August.
I apologize. My dog, my barking Bailey, she's outside and she's angry right now. So I apologize.
Just bring her next to you like I am with my Bella.
She'd be up in my lap. I love my dog.
So. How big is your dog?
She's a medium size. She's a Chow Lab mix.
Oh, so she would be up in here.
Yeah, she thinks she's a lap dog, but she's not, and she's very well fed. So.
Awesome. Sorry. Okay, back to my original question.
All right, so just from January on to through September.
January until it started to be like, okay, we're like doing good, because it sounded like last year, right around September, October, you started doing if you did good last year, obviously I'm sure you started to see kind of that compound effect. But let's go from like January until like August. Because the reason why I'm even asking that is personally, there, and the barometer from us personally and from other people when I was talking to other people, or even some of the other, like leaders in the community, people's morale was not good during that time, I don't think.
Yeah, see, I'm actually really grateful that I kind of kept my morale up, but I was always grateful for every little sale. So for me, it was like January was kind of hard because I just went off this huge high of December, and then January was not my best month. But what I will say, and what I thought was my win from January, is I at least got one shirt sale a day, which is more than a lot of other people could say. So I was really that helped me. That kind of kept me positive about everything. February, March, April, everything started to even out. It was going in the right direction, but pretty much I was averaging about 350 to 400 shirts a month up until recently.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And
so definitely not these crazy numbers, but I've always been grateful for them. So.
Right. And I think that's a big thing too. I think that, there's not that many people that are like, they just expect it to be like, get in, and just go crazy, pretty much. And it is, I mean, it's difficult. So there are some things that are tough, about merch, but I think that I'm, like I said, even talking through, and we constantly, and even in online retail, like, we're sitting here saying Q4 again. Q4 starts in the beginning of October. Really, I mean, the Q4 high, everybody. So when next year, if you have to write this down, if you have to, bookmark the posts that are going on right now, if you have to, I know what people's morale was. So we went to Seattle, where I got these glasses from.
Yeah.
And the morale was not great. There was people that I had been, and not that people were like, dogging it, really. They weren't, they just weren't as optimistic. Let's say that, they'd been experiencing some things. They didn't have the eclipse. They didn't here, and so there was a lot of, and who knows? I mean, everybody's business is different, but when you have a lot of different things, you have a lot of different uploads, you're probably not being necessarily consistent. There's different products that you don't know whether you should be putting stuff on or whatever. So there's a lot of different variables. And I think it kind of made people a little bit scattered. And then, when they start to decide that they're losing morale or whatever, it just kind of like, that's just kind of what it was. And again, everybody's obviously, there was a bunch of people, amazing people at Seattle. So it wasn't like everybody's like, oh, well, we're done by any means. People were just like kind of expecting the trajectory to be like, okay, we're going to, keep growing relatively quickly on, right. That's not how it always goes. There's different things that happen. But I do have to say from that, even some of the people that were there that were just feeling a little bit discouraged, their numbers are cranking. And I am so happy. Like Jay Baines, for example, he posted some killer numbers, and I knew I've communicated with him. There's a lot of people that I've communicated through, through Messenger, and he'd reach out and be like, oh, once we've shared and we're excited about some numbers, he would be like, oh, man, he's like, that's great. He's like, but there was points in there where he was kind of like struggling this past year a little bit. He's got a full-time job and like family and business and all this kind of stuff. And he's just like, I'm trying to like, it's just not in comparison to what he had live this year. And so he had a little bit higher expectations, but I'm telling you right now, cashing in this year, I feel like people are cashing in at a much higher level, that when they were consistent, cashing in a much higher level this year than last year. And I don't know if maybe that's just because there's multiple different products or because people kind of piddled out a little bit. I don't really know. What do you think?
I don't know. All I know is like I keep my eyes on I'm staying in my lane. And I know for me a lot of it was eventually it's all going to pay off. The time that I put into this, it might not be the shirts that I'm uploading, it might be a completely different shirt, but everything that I was doing I knew was eventually going to pay off. And this is just a confirmation of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been watching Jade too, and it's like I'm cheering for the guy. You know, I think
I
it's
love it.
wonderful. Yeah, you
Yeah,
know.
he's been in the mix for a while. I mean, he knows what he's doing for sure, and he was. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he had been in the mix with merch for a while, anyways. So that was kind of, but yeah, he's rocking it out, and that is so exciting because I think that there are a lot of people that might have taken their foot off the gas a little bit are going to be excited for next year. And I think that what's incredibly important is that people remember this because, you know, going through last year. And I'll admit, you know, going from like December, it just freaking crushed it last year. Like I said, you can still sell shirts, like even if you're suspended. And thank God, I was like, please
Yeah.
let us be able to like get paid out at the end of January. I was like, that was like an incredible month. And thankfully they did. But again, then January, everything like tanked. And there was a lot of things for me to try and figure out, you know, why that was. Was it because, and obviously we know why it was. We didn't have, I mean, that was just basically a fresh start, a fresh year, a fresh whatever. So, and everything that we were doing prior to that, because we were new, was trends or holidays. So that's, people aren't going to buy the trends and holidays that they're buying, you know, freaking August through December, that we were actually prepped for January following. So of course that's why stuff tanked, you know? So I think that one of the biggest things that I see is like the seasoning of your account is incredibly important. And so, I mean, not just the experience that you're getting, but that is a truly compound effect. And I thought this before, and I mean, rationally, like, I'm like, okay, well, of course, that's how it's going to be. But again, you kind of get in your head when you're like trying to analyze stuff and seeing sales and, you know, has the environment changed because things do happen with business and stuff. So, I'm just so impressed that you don't let that stuff get to you at all. It's amazing.
No, it's not. It's not. I can't control that. I can only control like what's in front of me. And I understand that there's going to be more competition on the platform. And I mean, I don't know how many people are on there. I don't know how many shirts are being uploaded every day. But I know that I need to continually get better and adapt and just go with the flow. And I think it's really cool because I'm a type B, you know, I've joked about that a few times. Like I am so type B. And I think that really gives me an advantage to just kind of be chill and not like get too worked up about things that I can't control. So for me, it's just, you know, I enjoy like every little sale, whether it's like 5 sales or like 100, you know, it's all fun. And just focusing on what I can control, which is getting better in designing and uploading and working on keywords and studying up and taking courses and reading what's going on in the groups and just applying it.
Yeah. So. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about when you started to like educate yourself and what were the things that you focused on throughout this past like a year and few months, a year and a half or whatever.
Well, I mean, when I first got into merch, I basically read everything I could possibly get my hands on in the groups. I was watching whatever YouTubes were available to me at the time and just trying to figure out how to make it work for myself. And I pretty much continue to do that now. Although I have a better understanding of like how keywords work and things, but I mean, I love watching the Merch Campus videos. I love watching Matt and RJ, the Average Joe Merch Show, you know, all of those. I still get a lot of, you know, value in that. And of course, Michael Asani and everything he's putting out. And then of course, our own Amy Herberger, you know, she's just like, well, if you're going to follow anybody, it's her, you know.
No kidding. And I think, and obviously, hopefully people that are actually in the Girl Boss group, all you ladies, and then anybody that's following on the Girl Boss page, I hope you guys stick really, really tight because when Amy shows up and Amy One or Amy Herberger, a Miss, you know, Queen of Merch, 100K tier, like all this, when she writes stuff, it is fire. Like it is incredible. I've actually started noticing that your posts have been fire lately. Holy smokes, you've been coming out and dropping some glitter bombs on everybody. But I hope people stay tight to that because I think, you know, that's probably one of the reasons too. Like, yeah, you can keep your morale up, but just that confidence. And she's an incredible leader and, you know, leading in the community. Like she is just the epitome of what you want pushing you through a business like this. You know, she's obviously been through some different platforms prior to even getting on to print on demand. So she's no, she's no rookie to that. And she's had stuff in her life that she's had to deal with and different struggles. And, you know, just having her be able to do that with such grace and then take that responsibility of leading and guiding the community, it's badass. Like, it's incredible. So I know that that's really probably had, I know it's had an impact on, you know, me personally, but I'm sure, you know, that's just, you stick close to that. And I feel like that's kind of what you're, you know, not alluding, but what do you want to say? Like giving off as well, like that type of energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's the first one to tell you, you know, focus on what you can control, you know, everything else will work itself out. And, you know, be grateful for the little things and the big things. I mean, she's constantly talking about that. So I know like her voice is like almost in the back of my head in a way when it comes to a lot of it. And I'm so very grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. And if you guys haven't read her posts, like go back and read them. A couple times a week, she just throws up amazing stuff. And you can just tell she's direct and it just comes straight from her heart. She's no BS. And so, yeah, I definitely appreciate that. Okay. So we went through, let's talk a little bit of numbers. So Q4 last year, you had a great December last year. Share a little bit about that. And what year you're at, if you remember.
I think I was at tier 2000. I was either tier 1000 or 2000. I want to say it was 2.
You racked it out pretty quickly.
Yeah, that protest shirt really helped. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was tearing up pretty much every month almost, it seemed like. Like I was doing the thing. I was making some waves. Just not like crazy, you know. Little waves, little ripples.
I think it's pretty good starting out. So yeah, how was your December last year?
I sold 858 shirts, which is not a whole heck of a lot, but I didn't have a whole lot of shirts up either. And the royalties were also higher. So it was actually a pretty badass month for me.
So what was that? I'm like calculating in my head, like about $5,000 at least.
Yeah. Just under 5,000. Yeah.
That was incredible.
It was great.
Like
that was, and that was like, okay, I'm all in. Like,
I mean, exactly. It's like how, even if like you went through and you're like, hey, I just gave myself a $5,000 raise, like, and that doesn't happen. Like, if people are working like regular jobs like that, I mean, you just don't be like, boom, this is going to happen. Like in here. And yeah, sure. You can get a $5,000 bonus in some jobs, I guess, whatever. But I just don't think that it was very much anymore. So yeah, that's the hook. And that's what hooked us too. For sure was last December. But we have to talk about, when did your numbers just start like blowing your mind this season?
This season, definitely November. Although September and October were pretty good too, because they at least doubled what I was doing. And then November came and I was just like, oh my gosh. And of course, it was towards the end of the month that you really kind of started seeing more activity. And that was really cool. I was not expecting what's happened this month though.
Yeah.
Not at all. But I'm so like thrilled.
If we looked at, like, let's see. So last like October, November, what were you doing last October, November-ish? I mean, or I guess I don't know if there's an average or if it was like November was a lot higher. Well, last year, November's Black Friday was later in the month.
Yeah, I mean, last November 17, I sold just under 500 shirts.
That's still really
so
good.
It wasn't, yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, it definitely paid the mortgage.
Because everybody was saying, I think they were like 5 to 10, December is 5 to 10 times. And what it was back, like not November, we can't really count November, but like I would say before Q4 started, so like maybe September. So everybody's like September, 5 to 10 extra numbers, and that's your, and you know, this is what I can remember, was like, oh, that's your Q4 number. So once we start in October, here I am expecting to get like this rush of like, oh my gosh, all these sales. And sure, they picked up a little bit because we hit some stuff for Halloween and whatever. And sure, we did hit some stuff for like Thanksgiving, but it wasn't like I was sitting here even last year, like, oh my gosh, like it's not happening because
yeah,
Q4 and it's not happening. And I mean, man, from Cyber Monday on, it's just incredible. And I wasn't sure if that was going to happen this year, but the fact that, I mean, if you think about that from Cyber Monday until what, December 5th, fortunately, I didn't think that we hit a bunch of throttle, or if we did, it was probably on our crappy shirts because the stuff that was still selling was good. But still not having that throttle, I think is amazing. And it's going to be, man, I'm trying to think of how long that, today is what, the 11th. So
yeah.
I would say at least another week, probably another week of.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah. Okay. So, good. So let's talk about this December's numbers. So what's your record day so far?
I believe it was, let's see, I think it was just Sunday, 167 shirts sold. Ooh, which okay. For me is just like, I'm like, is this even for real? Like 100 shirts? This is crazy.
That is amazing. And then it's been consistent since either Black Friday. It's been like that 100+ mark. Like you've just been blown it up.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I think like I look at my chart on Pretty Merch and it's all like 100+, and I'm just like, what? Because I mean, before this, a good day for me was like 40 shirts. Like that was a really good day. Was 40 shirts, and now it's like, whoa, is this? So even
I want people to show. So I want to like give a little bit of like perspective for us prior to December, or everything that's going on. A good day was probably realistically, because, and the reason why I'm saying this is because this is what I think people need to realize with the consistency factor of things. Is that we have not been doing much with our account, not because of discouraging. I mean, like I said, I went to Seattle. I love it. We have to pick and choose some stuff, and we're focused on some of the new stuff going on with our private label. However, so it wasn't because I didn't think it was worth my time by any means. But the truth of the matter is that the effort has not been there. So it's not like I expected anything. I'm very happy with our numbers at the moment. But if somebody wants to like see a comparison, I mean, I said like our good numbers are probably right into that 20 to 30 a day mark. And now we're right around that. And I look at more of the royalties right now at this point. So I'm not really paying attention to those numbers, but I right around like probably the 40 to 50-ish mark. And so that's where we're at. And so, but here's the thing is, how neat is that? I mean, I'm amped about what's happening. And I don't look back and say, oh, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, because honestly, like there's other stuff that we have to do. But like, to me, that's incredibly encouraging that I think it should be for everybody. Now that effort and what's coming from that has been from like the previous year where we were going balls out. Like we were eat, breathe, sleep. Like that's what we were doing. So, I don't think that merch is just a set it and forget it business by any means. However, how incredible is that we're going to do, few grand this month and we haven't really touched it now. However, though, like people need to also understand that it probably, if we would have been, you're a busy mom, you homeschool, you're not doing this, nonstop. You've been good about like creating, barriers in your life so that, or like, not barriers, but, not borders either. Not balance. It begins with a B.
Boundaries?
Come on, we're interactive game tonight. But boundaries in your life so that, this isn't something that is, you do it when you want because you enjoy it. So, I mean, that's amazing. And then, the effort, the consistent effort, the positivity, the optimism, like all of that, and you are blowing it up. Let's say, what are you kind of thinking that you will, kind of hit this month total?
What do I think my total will be?
Yeah, royalties.
Honestly, 10 to 12. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm trying not to have expectations. Like I'm really not.
Hey, you're already thankful for what you have going on.
Oh, very much so. Like if it stopped today, it's like, okay, cool.
I love it. That is incredible.
Yeah.
So, and just thinking about that. So here's the consistency. And again, you don't have the expectations. It can't be parallel. It can't blah, 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 whatever. But okay. So
I'm trying hard not to.
You're right around 5. So this, next year, before you, so 5 to 10 to 12. So if you're like 10 to 12 next year, you should be like knocking out 25 grand. Easy peasy. Probably more because like you're up in all of your skills across the board. Like it's amazing. I love it.
I'm honestly just waiting to wake up. Like,
you're just getting started. This is
I know, and that's something too. I was talking to my husband. I'm like, this is just the beginning. Like, this is only our second Q4 on this platform. It's still only 3 years old. Like, this is just a baby. That's amazing.
He's like, sugar mama, amazing. Go get it.
Yeah, right? What he's saying too.
Yeah, he's like, we need a new roof. I saw your post about that. That's not very exciting.
Oh, I'm getting a new roof. I'm very excited.
Are you going to treat yourself as well? Wait, so what are you treating yourself as in when it comes to, because you used over. So you used over for so long. Let's talk about your transition from over to the next thing that you started using for designing.
So after last year, I decided to go ahead and, after last December, it's like, okay, I need an iPad because I can draw and I'd like to make my own graphics. So I got the iPad and then I started teaching myself different things on there. And that's pretty much what I do now. So
awesome. Yeah, because I know that you had taken a course and you've been working with Affinity Designer is your thing, right? Because it was with Procreate before and then Affinity Designer now.
It's mostly Procreate still. I just absolutely love what I can do there. But I am using a lot more Designer than I was too. So
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So are you getting yourself any new toys?
Yeah.
What's next on your horizon for what you want to do to level up?
I'm going to be buying myself a new Dell XPS laptop. It's a gaming laptop, but it can also do pretty well with my computer's a dinosaur. So that's what I'm going to treat myself with.
Awesome. All right. So let me think. Okay, let's go to the crowd. Let's see what you do a good job. So what questions are they asking you, Amy?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up. I am terrible at this. I do try. All right, hang on. Let me bring this up a little bit.
And if you did have a question that we haven't passed and you still want it to be asked, go ahead and retype it in the thing so that we can actually see what's going on.
Okay, was there an aha moment this year for you that you can attribute to your Q4 success? Kind of, sort of, yes. And definitely it was Amy Herberger and her don't overthink it and just have fun mentality. I noticed that when I finally actually took that to heart and did it, because it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, I'm totally not going to overthink, but you still do. It's another thing to stop overthinking and actually stop overthinking. And I do believe that was the game changer for me. That was my moment. Because then when it was more fun and less of a chore, I don't know, everything just kind of jived better.
Awesome. I know I should look a little bit too.
Design programs that I'm using now is another question. Definitely Procreate. I still use the over mostly for fonts, but now that I'm getting more efficient with Affinity Designer, that's kind of taking over even with the over part. So definitely Procreate and definitely the Affinity products.
So talk about that. So I don't understand what you mean. So over with fonts, what do you mean?
Okay. So Procreate is just like for painting and drawing and lettering. You can't import fonts. So there's no way to like.
Oh, so you have to do the image and then just use the image as like a PNG and then do fonts after that?
Yes. Okay. Or bring the fonts in, like saving pictures. It was kind of like you had to do an extra step.
Sure.
But it's worth it because Procreate is really cool.
Awesome.
Okay, Amy, what other platforms are you into besides Amazon merch? Do you have an Etsy shop doing KDP? I am sort of doing KDP. I don't have a lot up there. I think I have like 85 journals. That's big time on my radar for next year, and Etsy is on my radar for next year too. I haven't started that. I want to take J&D's course first. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about that real quick. So your vision for or game plan or whatever, because at this point, I mean, you're making a significant income. Like this is not a little deal, and you know what are you looking at to are you like just going to be like, okay, I'm just going to continue to have fun, or are you like hunger to like get nitty gritty with a business and really start like game planning that out?
both, because all of this is a lot of fun. But no, my big thing for 2019 is I want to build at least 2 brands. And I know I can't really do that on merch. Although merch, like my number one goal for merch right now is to get to the 10,000 tier. I just need to get my slots full to get there. And then I want to focus a little bit more on KDP. But branding, I do want to create 2 brands, and I'm probably going to do that on Etsy. That's big time.
And those brands, are they going to be more like the niche? Is that what you're kind of thinking?
Yes. Cool. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I've been seeing people that are crushing it with Etsy right now too. So that's going to be an awesome layer to add on to your 25K for next December.
Right?
All right. And then obviously there's going to be a bunch more slots and potentially more, products. Who freaking knows what's going to happen?
Exactly. It's still a baby.
Yeah, they've done so much this year. So how has your overseas sales been going?
Nothing to really write home about, but they're doing. And I'm going to continue uploading on there because I do trust that Amazon knows what they're doing. They are a data company, and it just might take a little bit for others to pick up more on shopping there.
When you do upload, are you creating and like submitting stuff specifically for Europe, or are you just doing, okay, I'm going to focus on what I'm focusing on for the US, and then I'm just throwing those up there too?
I'm throwing those up there too, but more, I'm definitely putting more like graphic based stuff for, especially in like Germany, less text stuff, but more like pictures, drawings and stuff. And it sells. It's nothing crazy or anything. In fact, it was kind of exciting the other day in Germany. I got a 6-bagger and I was like, hey, cool. That was like, it's cool.
To me, I love when, and this is how I look at some of that stuff. Because like you said, like, oh, great. Like, it's not like anything to write home about, but I like breaking it down into different things in our life that this covers, expenses or whatever. And, I can remember, I think it was Matt Cartlett that was talking about how initially is like, I want this to cover my cell phone bill. Okay. I want this to cover my car payment. Okay. I want this to cover my mortgage. And like, it gets to the point where that's so like, you're not just looking at it. Like when I started seeing again, Europe, I didn't have to do anything. We've not uploaded to there at all. They've pulled stuff over. Again, nothing to write home about. We're getting money in our bank account. We didn't have to do literally zero extra at that point. And it's like, okay, this is really freaking awesome. And I look at it and it's not like I'm like, oh, whatever. That's just like, I'm thankful for it too. Cause I'm like, hey, this can just cover, whatever we want to say. If this was like a grocery bill or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's just awesome that it's just there. Like here, free money, it's really nice.
Well, my very first payout on merch was $19.80, and it was the coolest, like, under $20 I've ever made. And when it came, it was just like, there were times that $20 would have made, like, the hugest difference in our life. Yeah. So that was, like, a big deal for us, and it's only getting better. Like, it's just, my mind's blown, but you're absolutely right. It is a big deal because every little bit does add up. It's this bigger picture.
Yeah. So how excited is your husband about all this?
Oh, he's loving it. I can't blame him, Yeah. It's just like he's always been very supportive, and he loves the fact that I'm enjoying what I'm doing because like I wake up every day and there's like this new joy in my life. Not that I didn't have that before. It's just this new awakening, I'm finally doing things that I really, really enjoy. I'm being able to create every day. And it's just, I don't know, it's made our lives just so much better. Yeah, he's loving it. We're all loving it.
That's awesome. All right, let's see. Does anybody have
No ads. I'm not running ads. I wanted to. I just haven't had the time to learn. Somebody asked if I was running Amazon ads yet.
Dude, that is killer. So you're not. Yeah. So you're not running any ads. You're doing like 1 to 150 plus a day without ads. Like that's incredible.
I know. Part of me is kind of like, maybe I should have ran some ads, but I don't want to be greedy either.
Well, Amy says be greedy, especially with your price. Well, that's one of the things. So how about your pricing strategy? Let's talk about a little bit about that. Because obviously, you know, our royalties got dipped, you know, last year. And so what have you been doing with that?
I'm making on my lower shirts $3. Like I'm at 311, I think it's like 311 or 387 on there. And that's where I started. And then I have a few that I'm getting a little bit more, but for the most part, I'm around $3.
That's good. I mean, so what is that like? That's like the $16.99-ish.
$16.99 and $17.99. Cool. I have a few $18 and $19.99s, but for the most part, I'm right there at 16 and 17. Yeah. It just, they seem to work well for me there. So
I bet. And see, and I'm not really sure. Like the only thing that we did prior is we did raise our prices across the board. So and it is kind of nice to see, you know, these royalties. And I don't know if we would have sold more quantity if they were lower. We've played around with a lot of different things. I had talked and shared about, you know, one of our shirts that was back in November that we kept super duper low, and we're just waiting for the BSR because we had a feeling that one that could, like, you know, take off, and wait for the BSR to get low, and just paid like nothing on it until we cranked it up. Mm-hmm. And really, really well on that shirt. A few hundred, I don't even know the total that we sold, but hundreds of that one. Yeah. And so it was cool to see that worked, but that's not something personally that I think if we do something like that, it will always be on something that we feel can be, that can catch fire. Because if there's ones that are just and it has to be something that is going to be like super search term, because I mean, otherwise it's not going to happen. And if I was noticing before that, you know, the like evergreen type stuff that we're going to get like onesie twosie sales here and there, like, I can actually price those a little bit higher. And that's good when we get the sales, because it's not something that I'm like lowballing to take off or be very competitive at. So anyways, we raised all of our prices across the board. I think we're at like $19.99 for everything, in kind of the thinking that there might be a freeze, and B, just kind of testing in the waters, you know. And so I mean, it is nice having those, but again, who knows, quantity wise, maybe we would have been selling more, you know. We just everybody just has to kind of play around with it. And I think that obviously you have a super solid handle on that. So like how many shirts do you have live now?
In the US market, I believe when I looked the other day, it was like 34.98 or something like that. So almost 3,500 shirts in the US market. Okay,
awesome. Yeah. So how does that, because okay, filling slots, because they have those, I didn't even like think about that. So now if I look at the ones that we have live, I have to subtract the ones that are live over in Europe, because that's the total number, huh?
Yeah, but they're not, I look at the Pretty Merch thing. Well, even if it wasn't on Pretty Merch, like you have to go into the individual markets to see like what those numbers are.
Yeah, so I'd have to go in that. Interesting. So now that totally makes sense, because like, yeah, I don't even know how many do we have live. Will you look, please? Just in the US market. He's over there.
It was that new extension that everybody's been talking about, that Merch Legend, I think is what it's called. Oh, okay. Yeah, that it'll tell you like how many shirts are in like,
I think you have to go into manage, right? Because it'll say like how many are live.
3.
No, because that's the total amount. Anyways, I'll have to look. I have to look and see what we got going on there.
Oh, here it is. 3,356.
And that's on Merch Legend.
And that's what Merch Legend's saying for my US designs.
550.
Okay. So what about, on the so Merch Legend, like I've seen like people like talking about that. So what is that?
I really haven't played with it much. I let it analyze my things, and that's pretty much all I did. But Neil was saying, I think he like dropped a video or something where you can look at all your products from like reviews and BSR and everything, so it gives you a good idea.
Cool.
Yeah. So like if you have like a shirt that has like 10 reviews, all 5 stars, and you don't have it say on like long sleeves, you know to like put it on there. So. Cool. Or to like change prices and stuff.
For sure. For all the data junkies out there.
Yeah. More analytics.
We know how important it is, but some of us artsy people, it's not our favorite thing to dig into.
No, it's not mine.
Okay, so let's do a wrap up here, and have you talked to some people that A, might be a little bit new, or B, might have been a little bit discouraged but still hanging on. What are your words of advice over the next year?
Don't worry so much about Q4 right now. Worry about next Q4. Start working towards next year's Q4. Celebrate every little success. And even if if you're not quite where you want to be sales wise, I mean, you can oh, sorry. We live in a time where literally all the information is at our fingertips. So if you want to become better at research, that's available to you. But if you want to become a designer or an illustrator, everything is there. You just have to apply yourself and like make up your mind that this is something that you want to do and just do it. You're not going to be perfect off the bat. So you got to get out of your own way, get out of your head, try to have fun with it, and learn from those that are doing the thing, and try not to compare, because that really is the killjoy.
For sure. Well, it's so funny because like obviously we're coming to kind of the tail end of the Q4 of this year, but I think that after being involved for a full season, there's just, you do feel like so much more experienced being in for a full year. I don't know if many people give themselves that chance to, or the grace to be able to work through that, and hopefully they do, and hopefully if they've kind of stepped back at all or whatever, they kind of understand that it's definitely worth their time, and no matter what, consistent effort they can put in, that's what's most important. And like you said, have fun with it. I think that is one of the biggest aspects of it. I know that when we were thinking, we were tearing up really quickly, and we didn't have a ton of, as much time to dedicate to merch. I was like, okay, well, we're going to build this up by having VAs and leveraging and getting a designer and all this stuff. And before I was designing, and it wasn't as enjoyable for me. And I know that was something that kind of played a part in, our consistency or whatever, because I didn't like that. I didn't like giving ideas, researching and then just having somebody else do something. I loved that creative part. So once I got back to that and started playing around with it, it was just like a breath of fresh air. And so I think that people can, really take note of that. And if there's a part that you really enjoyed about merch, get back to that.
Yeah, you got to hold on to those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, stick with that. And if nothing else, again, just doing it and being consistent is just a big part of it, because you just continue to get better.
And another thing just to think about too is the beauty of merch. You don't have a boss that's down your neck about meeting quotas. You get to do this at your own pace. So seriously, don't compare and don't compete. Just compete with yourself and get better that way, and take your time with it, because it's not a race. It is a long-term marathon. So
absolutely. And it's just so good. We're just at the starting line. Maybe we're approaching mile 1. So we're approaching mile 1.
I don't think we're quite there yet.
Not even mile 1. Oh man. So anyways, Amy, thank you so much for letting me grill you. I think this was awesome.
I hope I didn't come across as too I want to be humble about things, but I am very excited.
One of the most humble people and grateful about this opportunity. So don't even think that. Number one, I am so happy to be able to, have you shine, because A, you deserve it. And B, you've just been such an incredible example. And I know not everybody gets to see, if you're not a girl, if you're not a girl boss, not everybody gets to see that, but you've just been such a wonderful example. So to see you being, I don't think that anybody takes it that you're not humble. I think that you want to have an impact on other people and give them encouragement and show them what is possible. And you're doing that. So high five to you. I'm incredibly, you know, like I said, so proud of you. I just met you pretty much since we started, you know, with Girl Boss like a few months ago, and
Yeah.
it's been awesome. So I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. And I'm happy for you too, and everything you guys are doing with your private label. Like, it's all very exciting.
Well, I'm excited to get in a groove back with merch. Let me tell you, like I said, we're coming on the tail end of like what we have to do here. And of course we have other stuff going on in 2019, but merch is definitely a positive piece of our game plan. So I'm amped about that and putting together something to where, you know, we actually just brought in an awesome girl. This is the first time that we hired somebody that's really going to be able to take on our, you know, like our daily operations. And we're working.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a piece that was missing to where, you know, we were having to do, you know, pretty much everything between us. So now that we're working on that and everything's going incredible there, I'm going to actually be able to have some time to dig into this and kind of lay everything down for 2019. I'm so excited.
That is exciting.
Hey, yeah. So, anywho, all right, girl. Well, you have a wonderful night, and everybody,
You
again,
too.
thank you so much for joining us on here. Gosh, we are getting close to Christmas time, so keep riding that wave, and hopefully, you know, everything's gonna keep pumping out for at least another week. I have a feeling it will. So Amy can get her new roof and then some, and her laptop.
Yes.
So, all right, guys, like I said, have a wonderful night, and we will see you again soon.
Bye.
Figure out.